Genesis is the book where everything begins. Not just the world. Not just humanity. But the problem the entire Bible spends the rest of its pages trying to solve. And the first hint of the solution that will take 1,000 years to fully unfold. This is the book of beginnings. And it divides cleanly into two halves that are doing very different things. The first half, chapters 1 through 11, is cosmic. It moves at breathtaking speed across the earliest history of the world. Creation. Rebellion. The first murder. A catastrophic flood. The scattering of nations. In 11 chapters, the Bible sets up the human problem at the largest possible scale. The second half, chapters 12 through 50, slows down dramatically. It zooms in on one family. 4 generations. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph. And it follows them through decades of life, promise, failure, betrayal, loss, and unexpected redemption. Let's walk through it. Genesis opens with a poem. God creates the world in 6 days. He speaks and things come into being. Light, sky, land, plants, stars, animals. And on the 6th day, something different. God makes humans, not by speaking from a distance, but by forming them from the dust and breathing life into them directly. And he places them in a garden. The humans are made in the image of God. Given dignity. Given purpose. Appointed as God's representatives to care for and cultivate his world. Extend the garden's goodness outward. Fill the earth. And on the 7th day, God rests. In the ancient world, when a god rested in his creation, it meant the temple was complete. The world is God's temple. And humans are his priests within it. But the garden contains a tree. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God says, don't eat from it. Not because the knowledge is bad. But because this is the test of whether humans will trust God to define what is good, or whether they will decide for themselves. They decide for themselves. A serpent questions God's word. The woman and the man eat the fruit. And in that moment, everything shifts. Shame enters. Blame enters. The relationship between humans and God fractures. The relationship between humans and each other fractures. The relationship between humans and the earth fractures. They are expelled from the garden. But before they leave, God speaks a promise into the darkness. A descendant of the woman, he says, will one day crush the serpent's head. It will cost him something. But the serpent will be defeated. The seed of hope is planted in the soil of catastrophe. And then things get worse. Adam and Eve have 2 sons. Cain murders Abel, the first act of human violence. Cain is exiled. And from that point, Genesis chapters 4 through 11 trace the spread of violence and corruption through the human family. By chapter 6, the situation is so severe that God says the imagination of the human heart is only evil all the time. He decides to start again. He chooses one righteous man, Noah, and instructs him to build a boat. The flood comes. The world is returned to the watery chaos of before creation. And then God speaks again, and the waters recede. Noah and his family emerge. God makes a covenant with Noah, with a rainbow as its sign. He will never again destroy all life with a flood. The project of creation continues. But the human problem hasn't been solved. It's just been survived. Noah plants a vineyard, gets drunk, and family dysfunction immediately reappears. And then comes the Tower of Babel. Humanity gathers, decides to build a tower to the heavens, to make a name for themselves. They want to be the center. God scatters them. Languages multiply. Nations form. The human family fractures into 1,000 pieces. The first 11 chapters of Genesis end with the world broken, scattered, and without a clear path back to what it was supposed to be. And then in chapter 12, everything changes with a single call. God speaks to a man named Abram, living in Ur of the Chaldeans, and makes him an astonishing promise. Leave your land, your family, your father's house, God says. Go to a land I will show you. And I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great. And through you, all the families of the earth will be blessed. This is the pivot of Genesis. Of the entire Bible. The scattering of Babel is met with the calling of one family. The fracturing of humanity is addressed by the blessing of Abraham. God's strategy to fix the human problem is not to start over again. It is to work through one family, to bless them so that they become a channel of blessing to everyone else. Abram goes. He doesn't know where. He goes. And God makes a covenant with him. An unconditional promise. Sealed with a ritual sacrifice in chapter 15. Marked with circumcision in chapter 17. And at the center of it all, this promise, your offspring will be as numerous as the stars. And through your offspring, the whole world will be blessed. But there is a problem. Abram and his wife Sarai are old. And they have no children. Years pass. The promised child does not come. Sarai gives Abram her servant Hagar. A son is born, Ishmael. But God says, Ishmael is not the child of the promise. Then when Abraham is 99 years old and Sarah is 90, God says, next year Sarah will have a son. She laughs. They name the son Isaac, which means laughter. Then comes the most devastating moment in Abraham's story. God tells him to take Isaac, his only son, the child of the promise, to Mount Moriah and offer him as a sacrifice. Abraham obeys. He builds the altar. He raises the knife. And at the last moment, God stops him. A ram caught in a thicket takes Isaac's place. Abraham has passed the test. He feared God. He did not withhold his son. Isaac grows up and has twin sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob, the younger, deceives his father and steals his older brother's blessing. He flees. Along the way, he has a dream, a ladder from earth to heaven, angels ascending and descending, and God renewing the promise of Abraham with Jacob. Jacob works 14 years for a man named Laban to marry the woman he loves. He is deceived, tricked, and blessed simultaneously. He wrestles with God at the Jabbok River, all night, refuses to let go, walks away with a limp and a new name. Israel, one who struggles with God. Jacob has 12 sons. And the youngest, Joseph, is his favorite. Jacob gives Joseph a coat. His brothers hate him. Joseph has dreams that his brothers and parents will bow down to him. His brothers throw him in a pit and sell him to slave traders heading to Egypt. In Egypt, Joseph rises and falls and rises again. He serves faithfully in the house of Potiphar. He is falsely accused and thrown in prison. In prison, he interprets dreams for Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. He waits 2 years forgotten. And then Pharaoh has 2 disturbing dreams that no one can interpret. The cupbearer remembers Joseph. Joseph is brought before Pharaoh. He interprets the dreams, 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. Pharaoh makes Joseph second in command over all of Egypt. The famine comes. And it reaches all the way to Canaan, where Jacob and his sons are starving. Jacob sends 10 of his sons to Egypt to buy grain. They bow down before the Egyptian official who is managing the food supply. They don't recognize him. He recognizes them. Joseph, the brother they sold into slavery. The one whose dreams said they would bow before him. And then Joseph, instead of revenge, breaks down and weeps. He reveals himself. He says, "You sold me, but God sent me. What you meant for evil, God meant for good. To save many lives. The family is reunited. Jacob and all his descendants, 70 people, come to Egypt. Jacob blesses Pharaoh. Joseph provides for his family. And as he is dying, Jacob gathers his sons and speaks blessings over each of them. From Judah's line, he says, the ruler will come. Joseph dies. His final words are a request, when God leads you out of Egypt, carry my bones with you. Genesis ends with a family in Egypt. It began with a world. It ends with 70 people. But those 70 people carry, within them the promise that started in the garden, the seed that will crush the serpent's head. The blessing that will reach all nations. The offspring from whom the ruler will come. The stage is set. The story is just beginning.